Hello and welcome to this month's drawing tutorial. This month I'm going to take you step by step through how to draw a portrait that has a face at an angle and a tilt and also wearing a hat. Now the hat is going to pose certain difficulties for us because usually you measure the placement of the eyes in terms of the length of the entire head. When the hat is there though, you can't see the top of the head, so you're going to have to make some adjustments right from the beginning. But the first step is to get that big shape of the hat and the head down in place. And I want to do that first so that I don't wind up running off the paper. So just something really sketchy. It's basically an oval, so that's what I'm going to stick with. You can see that it is already a little bit tilted, but I haven't made any measurements, so I can't be sure that that tilt is right. So how do I make sure that the tilt is right? I'm going to put my pencil on the chin and between the eyes, and then I'm going to keep my pencil at that angle and take the picture away, and now I have the angle. If I just make a light sketch line for where the pencil was lying. Once I've made the sketch line, I'm going to do it again and just double check myself. Oh, that looks really good. So now I know approximately the angle of the tilt, and I can make some adjustments in the shape of the head according to that angle. Then let's measure where the hat falls in terms of the length of the whole head. You can do that with your pencil again. So lay it down on the bottom of the chin, but it's a little bit too short. So I'm going to move to a larger implement. So now let me make a mark with my fingernail at the bottom of the brim and see where that lines up with. It's almost exactly half. It's right about to this point on the chin. But that would put the center of the hat brim about here. Then the bottom of the chin needs to be about here. And I can get down where the neck is supposed to end. So I can do that same trick. Make sure that your photograph is going to be straight so that these lines line up, because otherwise if you have it tilted and then you make the mark, well, that's not going to do any good at all. Okay, so line up the angle of the picture, the photograph on your drawing paper, mark down that angle of the neck, take it away, and then before you forget, make the mark. Then let's just double check that mark. Pretty good. But now I have the shape of the head, including the hat, and the first angle of the neck. So those are my largest shapes. Now I'm going to put those features on the head. So I'm going to start with a guideline for the eyes. It's going to be pretty close to in line with the top of the hat here. Guess at the nose, guess at the mouth, and then you can use a piece of paper up against your photograph and you can get some more accurate measurements. So if this is the width of one eye, and you can see it's going to be, because the head is at an angle, more than an eye's width between the two eyes. Let's go straight down from the bottom of the eye though, and that does line up perfectly with the bottom of the nose. Go down from the bottom of the nose and you see that that lines up perfectly with the center of the mouth. Go down one more length, and that's not quite the bottom of the chin. We'd need another half, a little less than half, to be the bottom of the chin. So back to the photograph we go. Here is my guess at the length of one eye. Let's use that length and see how we fare. That would be the second eye starting about here and going all the way to the edge of the face. Then if the bottom of the eye hit here, this would be the bottom of the nose, so that's good. This would be the center of the mouth, so that's good. And then we're going to need to lengthen that chin a little bit, because this here would be the bottom of the last eye length. And then remember, for the photograph, bottom of the chin, we needed to extend it down about a little less than half. Now, with those measurements taken, I can be more confident about the placement of my features. So keeping these angles in mind, I'm going to start to sketch them, first as boxes. So this nostril lines up with the inside of this eye. So a straight line at that same angle should be the nostril. And then the edge of the mouth straight line up at that same angle of the face is the center of the eye. So slowly, slowly we work it up, paying close attention to those angles and the measurements. Now I'm going to start to sketch my features within those guideline boxes. So this would be one eye, and the other eye, this would be his nostril, the tip of the nose, that divot under the nose. And see, I'm just going really quickly because I don't want anything to get too dark. If I get my features too dark in this stage, it's going to be difficult to erase them and draw them again. So erase some of those guidelines. They can be distracting at this point. And then make some adjustments as you see fit until those features are recognizable. And that means just slowly, slowly going back and forth, photo to picture, comparing what you see in the one place with what you see in the other, and making adjustments accordingly. So when you are done with the features, the first thing you're going to do is add a passive skin tone over the entire face. I'm working with the pencil on the side, and I'm just lightly filling in all of the skin tone. The reason we do this is because nobody has paper white skin, so this is how we establish a nice clean base tone. Then you can use a chamois cloth or you can use a paper towel, and I'm going to wrap it around my finger, and then I'm going to circle stroke, and fill in all of that tone. And see, then I can just work right around those features. I'm not blending over the top, and I'm not wiping anything off. There, now that's a good skin tone. I'll be doing some similar work in the hat, so why don't I just go ahead and do that as well. I'll put down a base. Everything has a base tone to it. Look though for the shadows on the hat as you even put down the base tone. See the huge contrast between this light struck brim and the underside here? You really have to hold to that or it's not going to look realistic. So even as you put down the base tone, make the dark underside a lot darker than the brim. And then in this case, I'm going to go back to my paper towel. See how I just rub right across the top? Just get as close as you can to the face, but don't worry about getting really precise, because you can't get too precise when you're working with a paper towel. Now, this is a smeary mess, and that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Now examine the highlights and the shadows on the face. Under the hat, in the eye area, and the top of the face, it's going to be in shadow because of the hat. The tip of the nose is in highlight. So, what I'm going to do is get my kneaded eraser, and I'm going to pluck out that highlight on the tip of the nose right away. Anywhere else that I see highlights, I'm going to pluck those as well. Then I'm going to use the pencil on the side, and I'm going to add additional tone to the shadow shapes. So on the other side of the bridge of the nose, that's on the cheek side, there's a shadow there. Above the eyes, there's a shadow there. You need to see the whole shadow that's going over everything and put it down as one big continuous shape. And that's going to help the realism in your pictures right away. I also see some darker shadows in the nostrils and the side of the nose here, inside the ear. And I'm just going from feature to feature and adding a little bit more tone. There's tone in the lips. So I'm going to start with just a base tone on those lips. And the upper lip is a little bit darker than the lower lip. The lower lip is large and fleshy and sticks out a bit more, so it catches more light. But underneath that lip, there's a bit of a shadow. And of course in the corners, there's quite a bit. And add a shadow on the underside of the ear that extends on the side of the face. And I see a little bit of coloration here in the cheek, so very softly I'm just going to go back and forth and add a bit more pigment. Now I'm going to do a second pass of blending. For the second pass, I'm going to use the largest stomp or tortillon. Those are basically the same, they're just rolled paper, and they're blending tools. I'm going to use the largest one that I can for the area that I'm blending. I'm going to start with the largest shapes, I'm using back and forth circle-y strokes, and those circle strokes will help hide the pencil lines and the pencil marks and make the face look smoother and more like realistic skin. A natural tendency though when you're using these awesome blending tools is you want to blend everything. Everything needs blending, and it doesn't. If you do that, then you're going to wind up with a super smeary face with no really clear lines or contrasts anywhere. And that is no good, because then it will look like your face is melting away. So in order to combat that, just do the base skin tone like I showed you, and then additional shading only in a few places as needed. Now here it's really big again. This whole cheek area is quite large. So in order to make that as smooth as possible, I'm going to do it with a chamois cloth again. You always want to use the largest blending tool that you can for the area. And notice what happened there when I introduced some more pigment onto the chamois cloth. It acted like a little pencil, but a very smooth pencil. So if you need to smoothly darken up a large area, just drag your chamois cloth through some of the charcoal dust, and then it's not just a blender, it's like a paintbrush. Ultra fantastic. So now go back into the eyes, darken up those pupils, and bring out some more details in the face. Not everything is drawn with a pencil. Some of those details can be erased out with your kneaded eraser. So for instance, if I mash this into a clean blade, I can pull out a line of highlight above the eyes and help to accent the eyelid. And then I can use a line and darken up around those highlights. But see, then I can use a little tortillon and fill in the color of the pigment of the eye, making sure to leave a little bit of highlight here and there so that the eye surface looks wet, and then go back and redarken as needed. Blending always lightens up the tones a little bit, so sometimes you need to go back in. When you've got your face a little bit further pushed along, then you can add some more details in the darkest areas. So the hat and the hair. Keep your reference material close. And then I see that this hat is like a straw hat construction, and it has these round bands. And on one side of the band is darker shadow, and then there's a highlight. So you can pick out the highlight with your kneaded eraser, darken up the dark place with the pencil, just like this, and then use your stomp and blend that darkness out a little bit. Then just take a break from the picture, stand back and see how the effect looks, if you're getting there with this technique or not. I'm going to add a little bit of tone to the band, so I'm just adding some tone here. The band goes across the head like this, so I'm just following that same arc to add the tone to it. And then it's a little bit lighter on the highlight side, which is over here, and darker as it comes closer to the hat over here. And then I'll also have to add some stitching and some details, just like what I did on the underside of the hat. On this side, I'm going to have to do it over here as well. And I can also add some more darks to the hair. When you're working in the hair, make sure that you always put down the individual hairs in the direction of the hair growth, so not up, but down the way the hair grows. And doing that is going to help you to make a natural line that goes from thick to thin, just like real hair does. And then in the clothing, I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadow, and I'll darken up the line next to the neck. I'll put that button in. And this side of the face is actually very dark, so I'm going to darken that up even more. Okay, but this is basically a finished portrait. I just have to go now and add those little details to the shirt and the hat, like the stitching, maybe a little bit of the pattern of this plaid shirt. So here's a dark stripe on the plaid shirt here, and I see the beginnings of one under here. And then once you have some tone down, just blend it smooth. So let me just go off camera and work up these details to completion, and then I'll come back one more time and you can see the finished piece. So here we have the little boy in the hat. There's a lot more that you could do to it, of course. If you want to put in the time, you can do more stitching. You can add more detail in the plaids. But for the sake of this month's tutorial, all I really wanted you to get down was how to tilt a face, turn it 2 ways, and how to draw an accurate hat. And so I think that we've accomplished that, and that's where I'm going to end it for this month. Go ahead and download the reference material and try your hand at doing the same drawing at your own studio. I wish you the best of luck, and as usual, thank you so much for watching.